What happens when a man known for hiding behind characters, for dissolving into roles so deeply that even his closest collaborators can't tell where the performance ends and the person begins, suddenly refuses to perform at all? Before the applause sign can even blink, before the theme music of The View fully fades from the studio, something in the air feels wrong. Not loud wrong. Not explosive. It's quieter than that. Heavier. The kind of wrong that settles into your chest before your mind can explain it. And before we go any further, if you're drawn to moments like this, the ones that feel raw, unscripted, and almost too real for television, make sure you subscribe to Stage View right now. Like this video, drop a comment as you watch, because what you're about to hear isn't just another celebrity interview. It's a collision. The camera glides across the familiar semicircle of hosts. Smiles are in place. Cue cards are stacked neatly. The audience claps on instinct, muscle memory more than excitement. This is how it always starts. Safe. Polished. Predictable. Then the camera lands on him. Joaquin Phoenix doesn't smile. Not the polite, practiced smile expected of a guest on morning television. He sits slightly hunched, hands folded together as if he's trying to hold himself still. His beard is untrimmed, his eyes ringed with exhaustion that makeup can't hide. He looks less like a movie star and more like someone who wandered in from a sleepless night and forgot he was being watched by millions. Across from him sits Whoopi Goldberg, calm, seasoned, unreadable. She has seen everything. Public meltdowns. Carefully staged confessions. Actors pretending vulnerability while secretly calculating headlines. Her posture is relaxed, but her eyes are alert. She senses it too. Something is off. The applause dies down. Silence stretches a beat longer than usual. Joaquin exhales. It's not dramatic. No sigh for the cameras. Just a breath that sounds like it's been trapped inside him for a long time. Whoopi breaks first. Her voice is warm, practiced, inviting. She welcomes him, mentions the film he's there to promote, praises his commitment, his intensity, his honesty as a performer. Words that usually land like compliments. But Joaquin flinches at that last one. Honesty. The audience doesn't notice it yet. The cameras almost miss it. Almost. He nods once slowly. Yeah, he says. His voice is softer than expected. Rough. I guess. That hesitation, just 2 words, creates the first crack. Whoopi leans in slightly. You guess? She asks, half smiling, expecting a joke, a self-deprecating quip. This is where guests usually disarm the moment. This is where they make everyone comfortable again. Joaquin doesn't. I don't know, he says, staring at the floor for a second too long. I don't know if honesty is the right word. The audience shifts. Someone clears their throat. A nervous chuckle ripples, then dies when he doesn't smile. Whoopi tilts her head. What would you call it then? And now the camera cuts tighter. Producers feel it. Control room monitors flicker with concern. This isn't on the rundown. Joaquin looks up. When he does, his eyes are glassy, not tearful, not yet, but charged. Exposure, he says. Or maybe confession. And I'm not always sure that's a good thing. The word confession hangs there, heavy and uncomfortable. Whoopi's smile fades just a touch. Well, she says carefully, a lot of people find your openness powerful. Especially right now. There it is. The pivot. The subtle push toward relevance. Toward meaning. Toward the safe talking points about art, healing, and the times we're living in. Joaquin's jaw tightens. That's part of the problem, he says. A murmur ripples through the audience. This is no longer small talk. He shifts in his seat, hands rubbing together like he's warming them. People think because I'm in movies, because I cry on screen, that I'm good at this. He gestures vaguely, encompassing the studio, the cameras, the audience, the entire machine of television. Talking. Explaining myself. Whoopi watches him closely now. Not interrupting. Not rescuing. But most days, he continues, I feel like I'm lying. Even when I'm telling the truth. Silence. This is the moment where a commercial break would usually swoop in to save everyone. But the show is live. And live television is merciless. Whoopi nods slowly. A lot of people feel that way, she says. They just don't have a platform to say it. Joaquin laughs once. It's short. Bitter. That's the thing, he says. The platform doesn't help. It makes it worse. Now the tension sharpens. He looks out at the audience for the first time. Faces stare back, some curious, some confused, some uneasy. You sit here, he says, voice rising just a little. And you know every word you say is going to be chopped up, shared, judged. And you're supposed to make it inspirational. palatable. Whoopi crosses her legs, still calm, but firmer now. That's television, she replies. People tune in to connect. Do they? Joaquin shoots back too quickly. The question lands like a challenge. A few audience members gasp. Someone laughs nervously, unsure if this is still playful banter. Whoopi raises an eyebrow. I think so, she says. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. Joaquin shakes his head. I think they tune in to feel better about themselves. Or to feel outraged. Or to feel like they know us. He pauses. But they don't. The words sound less like an accusation and more like a confession slipping out of control. A producer off-camera gestures frantically for Whoopi to steer this somewhere safer. She doesn't. Instead, she leans forward. So why come on the show? She asks, her tone gentle but direct. Why be here if you feel that way? That question lands deep. Joaquin's mouth opens. Closes. He swallows. For a moment, it looks like he might deflect. Make a joke. Retreat. He doesn't. Because I didn't know how to say no, he admits. The studio goes still. That's honest, Whoopi says softly. Joaquin's eyes flick to her. Something flashes there, gratitude, maybe, or frustration. Is it, he asks. Or is it just sad? Now it's not just an interview. It's therapy unfolding in real time, with an audience holding its breath. He leans back, running a hand through his hair. I spend my life pretending to be other people, he says. And then I come here, and I'm supposed to pretend to be myself. A few audience members nod. Others look stunned. Whoopi lets the silence stretch again. She knows better than to rush it. You know, she says slowly, there's a difference between pretending and protecting yourself. Joaquin's expression shifts. The defensiveness softens, replaced by something rawer. I don't know how to protect myself, he says. The words come out quieter. More dangerous. This is the point of no return. Because once a guest admits that on live television, there's no editing it away. No pulling it back. Whoopi opens her mouth to respond. And Joaquin keeps going. I've watched interviews of myself, he says, almost whispering now. And I don't recognize the guy talking. He's polished. He's careful. He says the right things. His voice cracks. I don't feel like that guy. A collective inhale from the audience. Someone in the front row wipes their eye. Others shift uncomfortably, realizing they're witnessing something deeply personal. Maybe something they weren't meant to see. Whoopi's voice lowers. Then who are you right now? The question hangs, enormous. Joaquin stares at her. Really stares. As if seeing her not as a host, not as a celebrity, but as another human being across from him. I'm tired, he says. And I'm scared. And I'm angry that this, he gestures around again, turns pain into content. There it is. The unspoken rule broken. The audience reaction is immediate. A wave of whispers. Shocked faces. Some nodding in agreement. Others stiffening, feeling implicated. Whoopi inhales slowly. She has navigated war zones of conversation before. You know, she says carefully, people might hear that and think you're blaming them. Joaquin nods. Maybe I am, he says. Then quickly adds, or maybe I'm blaming myself for agreeing to it. The tension between them is electric now. Not hostile. Not friendly. Something more dangerous, honest. The camera cuts to a wide shot. The hosts beside Whoopi sit frozen, unsure whether to jump in or stay out of the line of fire. This was not the segment they rehearsed. Whoopi doesn't flinch. I'm going to push back a little, she says. Because this space, this show, has helped people. It's given them language for things they couldn't say before. Joaquin listens. Really listens. His shoulders drop slightly. I know, he says. And I'm not saying it's evil. I'm saying it costs something. And we don't talk about that cost. The room feels smaller now. Like the walls are closing in. The applause sign stays dark. And somewhere between Joaquin Phoenix's unfiltered emotion and Whoopi Goldberg's steady gaze, everyone watching, at home and in the studio, realizes this isn't just an interview anymore. It's a reckoning. And it's only just begun. The silence after his last words doesn't feel empty. It feels crowded, packed with everything no one knows how to say next. For a moment, even the studio lights seem too bright, exposing something fragile that was never meant to be under this kind of glare. Joaquin Phoenix sits back, but not in relief. It's more like he's bracing himself, waiting for impact. Waiting to see if what he just admitted will be dismissed, softened, or turned into something inspirational enough to survive morning television. Across from him, Whoopi Goldberg doesn't rush. Years of instinct tell her that this is the most dangerous part of the conversation. The moment where a person realizes they've gone too far to retreat, but not far enough to be understood. She nods slowly. "You're right," she says at last. Her voice is calm, but there's weight behind it now. "We don't talk about the cost enough." A few heads in the audience snap up. That wasn't the response they expected. Joaquin looks at her, surprised. "You agree?" he asks, almost suspicious. "I agree that there's a cost," Whoopi says. "But I don't agree that it's always exploitation." The word hangs between them like a challenge. Joaquin leans forward again, elbows on his knees. "Then what is it?" he asks. "When someone's breaking down and we clap at the end." A ripple moves through the audience, uneasy laughter, then silence when no one else joins in. Whoopi folds her hands together. "Sometimes," she says, "it's recognition. Sometimes it's gratitude. People clap because they don't know what else to do with what they're feeling." Joaquin shakes his head. "Or because they've been trained to." That lands harder than he intended. He exhales sharply, running his fingers over his face. "I'm sorry," he mutters, but he doesn't take it back. The tension thickens, stretching like a wire pulled too tight. One of the co-hosts shifts in her chair, ready to jump in with a safer question. Whoopi lifts a hand slightly, "No. Not yet." "You know," Whoopi says, her tone firmer now. "I've been doing this a long time. I've watched people come on this show at their best and at their worst. And I can tell when someone's protecting themselves by pushing back." Joaquin looks up. "You think that's what I'm doing?" "I think," she replies carefully, "you're trying to control the narrative because you're afraid of what happens if you don't." The studio feels like it collectively holds its breath. Joaquin laughs again, but this time there's no bitterness, just disbelief. "That's funny," he says, "because I feel like I've lost control." "Have you?" Whoopi asks. "Or did you just stop pretending you had it?" That question cuts deeper than anything else so far. Joaquin's smile fades. His eyes flick briefly to the audience, then back to her. "I grew up watching interviews," he says. "Actors sitting in chairs like this, talking about their pain like it was a badge. Like suffering made them legitimate." A murmur of recognition moves through the crowd. "And I bought into that," he continues. "I thought if I just bled enough in public, people would understand me. Respect me." He pauses. Swallows. But what they really do is consume it. The word consume lands with a thud. Whoopi doesn't interrupt. She lets him unravel the thought on his own. "I'll walk down the street," Joaquin says, voice tightening, "and someone will stop me and say, 'That scene broke me.' Or 'I cried when you cried.' And they mean it as a compliment." He shakes his head. "But all I hear is 'my pain worked for you.'" A low, uncomfortable sound rises from the audience, part empathy, part shock. Whoopi leans back slightly. "Let me ask you something," she says. "When you perform, are you offering something, or is it being taken from you?" Joaquin hesitates. The question is deceptively simple, and that's what makes it dangerous. "I don't know anymore," he admits. "It used to feel like an offering. Like I was saying, 'Here, you're not alone.'" His voice cracks. "Now it feels like I'm cutting pieces off myself and handing them out." Someone in the front row gasps softly. The camera cuts to a close-up of Whoopi's face. Her expression shifts. Not shock, not judgment, but recognition. "That's burnout," she says. "That's what happens when you don't get to be human in private." Joaquin nods slowly. "And yet," he says, "here I am. Doing it again." The irony isn't lost on anyone. Whoopi tilts her head. "You're allowed to stop," she says. Joaquin lets out a breath that sounds almost like a laugh. "Am I?" he asks. "Because every time I pull back, there's a headline. Difficult. Unstable. Ungrateful." The audience murmurs again. This time louder. They've seen those headlines. Shared them. Commented on them. "People say they want honesty," Joaquin continues, "but only the kind that fits in a quote box." Whoopi nods. "That's true," she says. "But that's not unique to you." "I know," Joaquin replies. "That's what scares me." The studio lights hum softly. Somewhere off camera, a producer checks the time. They're running long. No one moves to stop it. "You're talking about a system," Whoopi says, choosing her words. "Not just a show." Joaquin looks at her, relief flickering across his face. "Yes," he says. "Exactly. And I don't know how to exist inside it without losing myself." That admission lands like a confession whispered in church. Whoopi's voice softens. "You know what I hear," she says. "I hear someone who doesn't trust that he's enough without the pain." Joaquin stiffens. The words hit too close. "That's not," he starts then stops. He rubs his thumb against his fingers, grounding himself. Maybe, he says finally. Maybe I've confused being wounded with being worthy. The audience reacts audibly now. A wave of sounds, a few scattered claps that quickly die when no one else joins in. Whoopi watches him carefully. That's a dangerous belief, she says. Especially in this business. Joaquin nods. Especially when the audience rewards it. That line draws a sharp inhale from the crowd. Whoopi doesn't bristle. Instead, she meets it head-on. We're all part of that, she says. Hosts. Viewers. Media. We feed what we respond to. Joaquin looks around the studio again. For the first time, there's no accusation in his gaze. Just sadness. Then why does it feel like I'm the only one bleeding? The question isn't fair. And it's not meant to be. A long pause stretches out. Even the audience seems afraid to breathe. Whoopi breaks it gently. Because you're the one in the chair, she says. Right now. Joaquin's shoulders sag. The fight drains out of him, leaving exhaustion behind. I didn't come here to do this, he says quietly. I know, Whoopi replies. I came to talk about a movie, he continues. To smile. To say the right things. To be normal. He lets out a shaky breath. But the moment you asked me how I was, something cracked. Whoopi nods. That happens, she says. Sometimes the mask slips. Joaquin looks at her, eyes shining now. What do, he asks, when the mask is the only thing people want? The question feels bigger than the room. Bigger than the show. Whoopi considers him for a long moment. You decide who you're willing to disappoint, she says at last. The words land softly, but they echo. Joaquin stares at her, absorbing it. That's terrifying, he says. She smiles faintly. Freedom usually is. A beat passes. Then another. Somewhere in the audience, someone starts to clap, slowly, tentatively. One clap. Two. It doesn't spread the way applause usually does. It stays small, respectful. Unsure. Joaquin notices. His face tightens again. Please don't, he says quietly. The clapping stops instantly. I don't want this to be a moment, he adds. I don't want it turned into a clip with dramatic music and captions about bravery. The irony is brutal. Everyone knows exactly what will happen next. Whoopi meets his gaze. You don't control that, she says gently. But you do control what this meant for you. Joaquin nods, blinking hard. Then I need to say one more thing, he says. Whoopi waits. He turns to the audience. Really turns this time, shoulders squared, voice steadier. If you've ever watched something like this, he says, and felt entertained by someone else's pain, I get it. I've done it too. He pauses. Just remember there's a person on the other side of it. The studio is silent again. Not stunned this time. Reflective. Whoopi exhales slowly. Thank you for trusting us with that, she says. Joaquin looks back at her. I don't know if I did, he replies honestly. But it's out there now. And once something like that is out there, there's no pulling it back. Not from the audience. Not from the cameras. Not from the world waiting to dissect every second of what just happened on The View. The reckoning has shifted. And whatever comes next won't just belong to Joaquin Phoenix anymore. The room feels different after that. Not calmer, just altered, like a fault line has shifted beneath everyone's feet, and no one is quite sure what will crack next. The director's voice murmurs in Whoopi Goldberg's earpiece, urging a transition, a reset, something safer. A commercial break is looming. There are segments left to get through. Obligations. But Whoopi doesn't move. Not yet. She studies Joaquin Phoenix the way you look at someone standing too close to an edge. Not to push them back, but to understand what pulled them there in the first place. You know, she says slowly, there's a responsibility that comes with honesty too. Joaquin nods. I know, he replies. That's what scares me about it. The audience leans in almost imperceptibly. This no longer feels like a confrontation. It feels like the quiet moment after a storm, when the most dangerous waves can still hit. You've said you feel consumed, Whoopi continues. That people take pieces of you, but you also keep offering them. Why? Joaquin's lips part, then press together again. He looks down at his hands. They're trembling slightly now. Because if I don't, he says, I don't know who I am without it. That admission lands harder than anything before. A few people in the audience exchange glances. This isn't celebrity drama anymore. This is existential. Whoopi's voice softens. That sounds like someone who tied his identity to being needed. Joaquin looks up sharply. Isn't that what we're taught? He asks. That our value comes from what we give? From how deeply we make people feel something. The question isn't rhetorical. It's aching. Whoopi nods. In this industry? Absolutely, she says. But that lesson can poison you if you're not careful. Joaquin leans back, staring at the ceiling lights. I remember being younger, he says, thinking that if I just worked hard enough, if I was good enough, the noise would stop. He laughs under his breath. It never does. The audience is silent now. No whispers. No murmurs. Just attention. When the film came out, Joaquin continues, people told me it changed their lives. They thanked me for showing them pain, loneliness, rage. He swallows. But no one asked what it cost to show it. Whoopi inhales. Let me push you here, she says gently. Did you ever tell them? Joaquin shakes his head. No, he admits. Because that would ruin the myth. The myth of what? She asks. The tortured artist, he replies without hesitation. The idea that suffering is part of the job description. A low, uncomfortable recognition passes through the room. Whoopi tilts her head. And what happens if that myth dies? Joaquin's voice drops. Then people might stop listening. There it is. The fear beneath everything. Whoopi doesn't sugarcoat it. Some will, she says. Others won't. Joaquin looks at her, searching her face. How do you know? She meets his gaze. Because I stopped performing my pain a long time ago. The statement lands quietly, but powerfully. Joaquin blinks. Did people punish you for it? Whoopi smiles faintly. Some did, she says. Others respected it. But the most important thing. She pauses. I could live with myself. That sentence hangs in the air like a challenge. Joaquin exhales, shoulders slumping again. I don't know if I'm there yet, he admits. You don't have to be, Whoopi replies. But you do have to start asking who this is for. The camera cuts briefly to the audience. Faces glisten. Brows furrow. People are seeing themselves in this, whether they want to or not. Joaquin follows the camera's movement. That's the part that messes with me, he says. Because I can feel when people are projecting onto me. Their grief. Their anger. Their loneliness. He presses a hand to his chest. And I take it in. I don't know how not to. Whoopi nods. That's empathy, she says. But without boundaries, it becomes self-erasure. Joaquin lets out a shaky breath. That's exactly it, he whispers. I feel like I disappear. The words are barely audible, but they pierce. For the first time, Whoopi reaches across the small space between them and rests her hand lightly on his arm. It's a simple gesture. Human. Unscripted. You're still here, she says firmly. I see you. Joaquin looks down at her hand, then back at her face. His eyes shine now, unmistakably wet. He blinks hard, jaw clenched, fighting the reflex to shut it down. I didn't want to cry, he says, almost apologetically. Whoopi shakes her head. You don't owe anyone composure, she says. Especially not right now. The audience feels it collectively. This isn't a breakdown. It's a release. Joaquin wipes at his face, frustrated but not ashamed. This is what I mean, he says. This part right here. He gestures weakly at himself. This will become the headline. Whoopi answers without hesitation. Only if we let it. Joaquin laughs softly. We won't be the ones who decide. She nods. No, she agrees. But we can decide what mattered. A pause stretches. The countdown to commercial ticks silently in the control room. 10 seconds. 8. 6. Whoopi glances toward the camera, then back to Joaquin. We're almost out of time, she says. Is there anything you want to say before we break? Joaquin considers this carefully. The room seems to lean closer. Yes, he says finally. He turns toward the audience again, but his voice isn't accusatory now. It's vulnerable. Measured. I want you to know, he says, that if you see someone unraveling in public, whether it's me or anyone else, that moment isn't entertainment. It's someone asking not to be alone. A hush settles over the studio, deeper than before. Whoopi nods slowly. Thank you, she says. For your courage. Joaquin shakes his head. I don't feel brave, he replies. I feel exposed. She offers a small, knowing smile. Sometimes they look the same from the outside. The red light on the camera blinks, signaling the break. Applause finally rises, but it's restrained, careful, almost reverent. Not the roar of excitement. The sound of people acknowledging they've witnessed something intimate. As the show cuts to commercial, Joaquin leans back in his chair, eyes closed, breathing deeply. The moment is technically over. But the impact? That's only beginning. Because while the audience exhales and the hosts reset their posture, somewhere beyond the studio walls, clips are already being cued, captions already being written, opinions already forming. And when the cameras come back on, nothing, absolutely nothing, will feel the same. The cameras come back on, but the moment never really does. The applause that greets the return from commercial is automatic, almost apologetic. People clap because silence feels too loud now. Joaquin Phoenix opens his eyes slowly, like someone waking after a dream they're not sure they wanted to have. His face has settled into something calmer, but it's the calm that comes after surrender, not relief. Whoopi Goldberg straightens in her chair, professional instinct finally reasserting itself. The show has to move forward. It always does. She thanks Joaquin, mentions the film again. The words sound thinner now, like a formality everyone understands, but no one believes in anymore. Joaquin nods, murmurs polite responses, even manages a small smile. To anyone half watching, it might look like a reset, but the people in the room know better. The audience doesn't look at him the same way. They're quieter, more careful, as if sudden movements might shatter whatever fragile honesty just passed through the space between them. When the segment ends, the applause is respectful, restrained, almost mournful. And then it's over. Joaquin stands, shakes hands, thanks the hosts. Off camera, a producer leans in and whispers something meant to reassure him. "You did great. That was powerful. People are going to love this." Joaquin nods again, but his eyes don't light up. He's already somewhere else. Backstage, the air feels colder. He sits alone for a moment, staring at the floor, the echo of his own words replaying in his head. He wonders which sentence will be pulled, which pause will be frozen into a thumbnail, which tear will be slowed down and paired with dramatic music. He already knows the answer. By the time he leaves the building, the world has caught up. Clips are everywhere. A 30-second segment circulates first, his voice cracking, his eyes shining, captions screaming unfiltered or breakdown or shocking moment. Someone adds sad piano music. Someone else adds fire emojis. Someone else writes, "This is why he's a genius." The irony is brutal. Social media fractures instantly. One side calls it brave. Another calls it manipulative. Some accuse him of attacking the audience. Others say he was finally telling the truth about fame, about media, about all of us. Think pieces bloom like wildfire. Why Joaquin Phoenix's moment on The View made us uncomfortable. The cost of authenticity in celebrity culture. Was this fair to Whoopi Goldberg? Whoopi herself trends for hours. Clips of her listening, really listening, are shared alongside Joaquin's words. People praise her restraint. Others accuse her of letting things go too far. In interviews later that week, she'll say the same thing over and over again. He was being human. I wasn't about to stop that. But online, nuance doesn't travel well. Memes appear. Reaction videos. Commentary channels dissect every breath, every pause, every glance between them. Some slow the footage down, freeze frame Joaquin's face, analyze his body language like it's evidence in a trial. And just like he feared, the pain becomes content. Late that night, Joaquin sits alone, phone face down on the table. He doesn't scroll. He doesn't need to. He can already hear the noise in his head. The praise, the outrage, the assumptions, the certainty of strangers who think they know him now. He thinks about what Whoopi said, about choosing who you're willing to disappoint. For the first time, he doesn't feel the urge to explain himself. The next morning, headlines settle into place. The language sharpens. The moment is officially owned by the internet. But something quieter happens too, something that doesn't trend. Messages arrive. Not from fans, not from critics, but from people who saw themselves in that chair. People who recognize the exhaustion. The fear of being valuable only when you're hurting. People who say, "I thought I was the only one who felt that way." Joaquin reads a few. Then he stops. He closes the app. Because the aftermath isn't loud for him. It's reflective. He doesn't regret what he said, but he understands the cost now, more clearly than ever. He understands that honesty, once released, doesn't belong to you anymore. Weeks later, the cycle moves on. There's another viral moment, another breakdown, another controversy. The internet forgets the feeling and remembers only the clip. But for those who watched it live, for those who felt the room shift, who felt the discomfort, the vulnerability, the uneasy recognition, that moment lingers. It wasn't entertainment. It was a mirror. And now it's your turn. What did you see in that exchange? Was it courage, discomfort, confrontation, or something uncomfortably familiar? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's talk about it. And if you want more unfiltered, cinematic, emotionally charged stories that take you inside the moments celebrities can't control, make sure you subscribe to Stage View right now. Because the most powerful moments on television aren't the ones that go according to plan. They're the ones that leave a mark.